Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad and at Movies TV Mad now on Vero. Please follow me on Vero, fellow Snyderverse fans. Right, today I want to play devil's advocate. I also want to talk about some information my sources have given me about Grant Gustin playing a larger role in Andy Muschietti's Flash movie. I am a big fan of Grant Gustin, a very big fan. I think he's the ultimate Flash. I'm going to say it straight. I think he's a better Flash than Ezra Miller. I love Ez. I think he's a great guy, great actor. But I think Grant Gustin is fucking amazing. So we're going to talk about that. Even Gorilla Grodd could be in the Flash movie, I'm hearing, as well. But first of all, I want to play devil's advocate. And I want to talk about Arrowverse. And I want to talk about the DC Extended Universe. Why did Warner Brothers launch a DC Extended Universe? Why did they greenlight Man of Steel? Because they wanted to chase after the Marvel Cinematic Universe dream. Again, I have to put the usual disclaimer that I love Zack Snyder's DC movies. I love the DCEU. But here's the truth. The ugly truth is that people didn't respond as well to those films as we wanted them to, as Warner Brothers wanted them to, as Zack Snyder wanted them to, right? They're very, very Denis Villeneuve type of immersive experiences, and those type of experiences aren't for everyone. I think it's fair and okay to say that. Please don't unfollow me, Snyderverse fans, because I'm like you. I'm fighting for the same things that you are. I think it's okay to say that. In 2012, the Arrow television series was launched. The first 2 seasons were some of the best comic book live action DC we've ever had. And that includes my beloved Smallville. The first 2 seasons of The Flash were some of the best DC live action, comic book live action in general we'd ever seen. I'd go further and say that seasons 1 and 2 of The Flash and Arrow are far superior than the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And if we continued along that line, who knows what would have happened, but we didn't. The quality went down because they were looking to appeal to young women. This was the same issue with Smallville season 8 to 10, the final 3 seasons. They were appealing to a different demographic. Although the final 3 seasons of Smallville still had some gems buried in the mundane and the mediocre. But I'm thinking, considering the Arrowverse was launched in 2012 and Man of Steel was launched in 2013, wouldn't it have been better if Arrowverse never happened and Arrowverse was actually the DC Cinematic Universe? It's very mainstream. It works for the mainstream audience. People enjoy it. It would have attracted the very audience they wanted to attract in the first place. It's very, very mainstream. It's very MCU. It would have been a better idea. Now again, I am happy the Snyderverse happened because I love Zack's movies. It's not about saying that Zack's movies are no good. We are talking here as a business. I am playing devil's advocate, so please don't hate me for saying this. But in terms of a business, it would have been a much better idea to launch the DC Extended Universe with Arrowverse instead of putting it on the telly. Imagine an Arrow movie instead of a television series doing exactly what they're doing on TV. A Flash television series doing exactly what they did in those first 2 seasons. Let me say that again. A Flash movie instead of a television series. Let me get it right. Doing exactly what they did on the TV series. I think people would have loved it, and I think we would have looked at making money, and I think the mainstream audience would have been satisfied. Again, it's not about deleting the Snyderverse. It's about saying that maybe Arrowverse should have been the DC Extended Universe, and maybe later on, a few years later, we could have created a kind of parallel universe that would have been the Snyderverse. Because I think you have to earn the right to do something like Snyderverse. It's like the Joker movie. It came many years after the DC Extended Universe was launched. It was something refreshing. It was something different. It worked. We're going to get a sequel. Joaquin Phoenix even won an Oscar, deservedly so. And I just feel that if Arrowverse was the DC Extended Universe, so in film, Arrowverse in film rather than Arrowverse on television, I think people would have come to the party. There would be no divisive reaction. And you do exactly what they've done in the series. You launch Arrow, you launch The Flash, you launch Legends of Tomorrow, you launch all these characters. Black Lightning in this universe. Basically, Arrowverse has done exactly what Kevin Feige did with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And whether you like Arrowverse or not, and I like early Arrowverse, I don't like current Arrowverse, but I will say, the Flash Armageddon series, Season 8 of The Flash, this mini crossover event, which really isn't a crossover, is fantastic. It's the best live action Flash we've had since seasons 1 and 2 of The Flash. And you know why? Because it focuses on The Flash. It's about the character's mental stability and how people perceive a hero. And it works because Grant Gustin is such a brilliant little actor. I was one of the people who defended his casting when arseholes were saying he was too skinny. Yeah, body shaming an actor. Well done, like you were body shaming Gal Gadot. How dare you, because you felt her breasts weren't large enough. How fucking pathetic. And look at Gal now. You go, girl, she's fucking amazing, isn't she, as Wonder Woman? And so is Grant. And Grant was very affected, and his mental health was affected by this, because Grant's a big DC fan. In fact, he's one of the biggest Superman fans out there, by the way. And so I've got a lot of time for Grant Gustin. Because I remember when Ezra Miller was cast, Stephen Amell said, what the fuck's going on here? Why aren't you casting Grant Gustin? He's brilliant. We've launched the multiverse, so he can be part of the movies. I like Ezra Miller. I think he's a good, solid Flash. I ain't got any issue with him as the Flash. I personally think that Grant Gustin was born to play the Flash. Again, some of you are going to say, Mick, you're talking shit, and that's fine. I talk shit. I'm only talking about my truth, not your truth. So I like Ezra Miller as the Flash. I thought he was amazing in the Snyder Cut. I think he's more the heart of the Snyder Cut than Ray Fisher is, and Ray Fisher is a big part of the heart of the Snyder Cut. I'm not disagreeing with that, but I think that his character is going through something as monumental as Ray Fisher's Cyborg is, Victor Stone, because he's lost his parents, hasn't he? It's worse for him because his mother was murdered, his father was framed, he's lost both of his parents, he's had to really, bring himself up. And, what he's done is brilliant. And this is a character who hasn't become bitter and twisted because of what's happened to him. He just wants to find out the truth. And his dad's not letting him. His dad wants him to move on, but how can you move on from that, right? So anyway, going back to Arrowverse. Arrowverse is exactly what a mainstream comic book universe should be. Whether you like me saying this or not, and as fabulous as Zack's DCEU is, if you're launching a comic book franchise like Feige did, you've got to understand making these immersive experiences isn't going to be for everyone. And it's something you have to earn the right to do. Because business is business after all. And, they want to sell toys and they want to make as much money as possible. Now, creating an immersive experience means that it's going to be unique. And it's not going to be to everyone's taste. We found that out very quickly, that Man of Steel wasn't to everyone's taste. That Batman vs Superman certainly was a controversial, divisive movie. I don't think it's as divisive and as controversial as people make out it is, but there you go. I like Snyder's DC movies. Then there was Suicide Squad. Again, critics, some fans didn't like it, but it made a hell of a lot of money. Wonder Woman was more mainstreamy and it worked. And Zack, all the good stuff from the first Wonder Woman, as we've discussed many a time, is based on Zack Snyder. Listen, Zack Snyder's a genius. He cast the DCEU well, he made great movies, but ultimately, when you're a studio You want to bring in as many people as you can. Like a film like Denis Villeneuve's Dune is an amazing movie. It's one of the best movies I've ever seen. But the reaction you get from it is some people love it. So the cinemaphiles love it, right? These people who, you know, like Jezebel. Anyone heard of Jezebel? Is that her name on Twitter? You know, she's such a cinephile, right? She's obsessed with these type of movies. But she's not a mainstream moviegoer. So these kind of movies are not for everyone. So if you want to create an immersive DC extended universe, fine by me, but it's clear. The removal of Zack Snyder proves one thing. That's not the kind of reaction they wanted to it. But if you're sitting down, if you're Kevin Sujihara, right, and you're Jeff Johns and who else was in charge, Christopher Nolan, you've got to think about this. You bring Christopher Nolan in to run the DC Extended Universe, he's going to make kind of auteur, indie movie director mentality decisions. So he brings another auteur, indie director in, who works with his wife. Chris works with his wife. So it's a mentality there. So if you get Christopher Nolan to do that, you've got to be all in on it. And unfortunately, Warner Brothers weren't all in because of the pushback they were getting. And again, even as a Snyder fan, I have to sit there and think about what it was like for Warner Brothers when the divisive reactions came in for the Snyderverse. It must have been terrible. They must have thought, which way do we turn here? You certainly don't make the decisions that they made, but when you're under pressure, you make dumbass shit decisions. We all do in our very lives. You know, a lot of people are not very good under pressure. I like to think I'm good under pressure. I can crack under pressure, but I try and make the best solid decisions for me and the people around me, so I can dig myself out of an issue. Warner Brothers weren't able to dig themselves out of that issue. They tried. They rethought what they were going to do with the first Wonder Woman film. You know, the colour palette was a lot brighter. The suit, the costume was brighter than it was in BVS, as we can all see. They were moving away from what Snyder wanted to do. So as a studio, you've got to sit there and think, right, we've allowed Christopher Nolan to bring in Zack Snyder, but Zack Snyder is an auteur. He creates immersive experiences, and we've got to research this before we allow this to happen. And the mainstream audience's reaction to Snyder directing Man of Steel was really negative, because I remember it, and no one can deny that. So I just think, instead of putting Arrowverse, the Arrow TV series, and Flash on the telly and everything that they did, that should have been the DC Extended Movie Universe. And I guarantee you by now, we will be competing with the MCU. Of course, I'm split in two about this. And again, I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm not saying Arrowverse is better than the Snyderverse. In my opinion, it's not. I think the Snyderverse is a great way to make movies. But in terms of marketing and PR, it's not. Listen, you've got to look at this in both ways. I love Snyder's movies, but we have to be honest here that if you're talking about PR and marketing and doing something that can bring in as many people as possible, we're talking about attracting the kind of people who watch the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Do you know who watches the Marvel Cinematic Universe since the first Avengers movie? Everyone. Everyone. Do you know who watched Russell T Davies' Doctor Who? Everyone. That's the difference. Russell T Davies is Kevin Feige. Stephen Moffat is Zack Snyder. Stephen Moffat's about imagination and immersive experiences, which for me are beautiful and great. But at the end of the day, it's not particularly great for business. Anyone who watches Doctor Who will admit that Russell T Davies was great for business because he made Doctor Who, and for the first time in its history, it was a mainstream IP, because before, Doctor Who was a cult TV show. That's what it was, a cult classic. And Russell T Davies brought it into the 21st century kicking and screaming. Now we can have another debate whether that was right or wrong. And I know we're talking about DC, but Doctor Who is a great example about what we're talking about here. We went from Russell T Davies to Stephen Moffat and Chris Chibnall. And when you have creatives who are not focused on the business side and to make something that pulls everyone in. But what's amazing about Russell T Davies is not only was it bright and bubbly and fun, but it could be very deep and dark. But it always had a variety about it. So people were interested in it because he knows how to do these things. And so does Kevin Feige. But, so you make a decision as a studio. If you want the DC Extended Universe to be an immersive experience, then you stick with Zack Snyder and you leave it. You don't make the money you might make if you do something that's a bit more, you know, PG-13 friendly. And it doesn't really appeal to children, because really the first DCEU film to appeal to children and families was Shazam. Let's be honest about that. And a lot of Snyder fans don't like Shazam. I enjoy Shazam. I'm not obsessed with it, but I like it. I think it's a good movie, and it's something that I can sit down with my nieces and nephews and watch as more of a family man. And that's great. I think any franchise needs variety. I think the Marvel Cinematic Universe is interesting because it's never really done anything too dark. The darkest they've gone is Captain America and the Winter Soldier and Infinity War. Infinity War's the darkest movie they ever made, but they did do it. And then they went to Endgame, which was a bit lighter, more gags, because they were heading to the ending of that story arc, and they could afford to do it. So the MCU tries to play it both ways, and I think we've noticed that. So that's why I'm playing devil's advocate on today's DCEU Daily, because I think if you want to attract a PG-13 audience, if you want to attract the mainstream parents and families like the MCU is, then what you should have done, instead of making Arrowverse a television series and franchise, it should have been the DC Extended Universe. Now, I've been listening to a lot of insiders talking to me about the Flash movie. There's not much information. They have done very well in keeping their secrets. But I have been told that Grant Gustin, who plays the Flash in the Arrowverse, will get a big platform, a big stage to play on in the Flash movie. And for me, this is a kind of justice being done here, because I think it was hurtful to Grant that somebody else, aka Ezra Miller, was cast as the Flash in movie form, because he's been doing a great job. Even if you say the Flash series hasn't always been great, he's always given it everything. He's always been fantastic. He's a tremendous little actor. He's a tremendous Barry Allen and Flash, and he's played so many different elements of that character. And it's been absolutely fantastic as far as I'm concerned. So I'm very excited that the rumours from insiders are that Grant Gustin's Barry Allen will get a big stage to play on, and he's already become... What's happened now is Grant Gustin is canon within the DCEU and Ezra Miller is canon within the Arrowverse, because the multiverse is converging. This is the whole idea of Flashpoint, making the multiverse canon. This is the whole idea of Spider-Man No Way Home, to make the Marvel multiverse canon. And I've already predicted No Way Home premieres this Wednesday. Very exciting. Unfortunately, because I don't know how to get myself a COVID digital passport, I can't even go to the bloody supermarket, right? You know, I have to pull a fast one to even go to the supermarket out here in Cyprus. So I don't think I'll be able to see it, so I'm going to pre-order it on digital and hard copy as soon as possible. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to rely on people for spoilers so I can do a few videos. But basically, the Flash movie and No Way Home are basically turning the multiverse into canon. So Tobey Maguire and Andy Garfield become Marvel Cinematic Universe canon. And hopefully one of them doesn't get killed off. But who knows, if one of the actors doesn't want to be involved, like Tobey, they could do that, and we'll have to wait and see. Terrible throat this morning. So it's looking like Grant Gustin's The Flash is going to get a big stage to play on. Interesting though, isn't it? What's the future of The Flash? Is it Ezra Miller? Is it Grant Gustin? I'm talking about in the multiversal canon, which is what we're heading for. Will both of these actors continue to have a stage here, or could it be something else, that one of them replaces the other? We don't know what's happening here. How would you feel? Comment down below if Grant Gustin replaced Ezra Miller as the main Flash. As I say, anything is possible. Could it be that Arrowverse becomes Earth 1 after Flashpoint? That again will upset many of my Snyderverse friends, should I say, because fellow Snyderverse fans, because I'm a Snyderverse fan as well. Again, I have to repeat myself, it's important. If you're just tuning in and you fast forwarded it and you couldn't be bothered for the rest of the shit, that I love the Snyderverse, and I'm playing devil's advocate here because it's important. What's more important, to create immersive experiences or make a bunch of films, create a franchise that are PG-13 friendly that people come to see? I think the two Venom movies are a great example of this, where you could have made Venom as scary as possible and R-rated, and what is it, Fox or Sony? Or I think it's Sony, right? Because Venom's part of this Sony Spider-Man cinematic universe they're developing now. But what they've done is they've decided to do something quite silly. They've decided to focus on the relationship between Eddie Brock and Venom and make it fun and silly, but it actually works for that audience. Kids can go and watch it and have a good time with it. Kids and families are the most important audience if you want to make mainstream money. And I think people kind of throw out that kind of thing. Well, you know, I want this, I want it to be like this, and I don't care about everyone else. But they do, because the studio is like a supermarket. A supermarket, you may go in there and buy salty popcorn because you like salty popcorn. And you may say, I don't care if there's no sweet popcorn. But many people want sweet popcorn. Should they not sell sweet popcorn because you like salty popcorn? Of course not. And it's the same thing here. And this is why I believe it would have been a better idea to make Arrowverse actually part of the DC Extended Universe. Make it the DC Extended Universe instead of a television franchise from the very beginning. But because I believe, because let's look at the DC Extended Universe as a supermarket that sells everything for different people. Because that's what a supermarket needs to do, right, to make money. It just can't sell dark chocolate. It's got to sell white chocolate as well, right? It can't just sell regular cola. It's got to sell Diet Cola or Coke Zero or whatever, right? That's logical, right? And it's got to be the same with the movie industry, but especially the DC Extended Universe, where there's something for everyone, which means there's no reason why they shouldn't restore the Snyderverse as a parallel universe and allow Zack to finish his arc, and I'm all for it. I just feel we wouldn't be where we are now if they were honest with the audience and they just set up a PG-13 mainstream DC Extended Universe from the very beginning, and instead of bringing Arrowverse as a television franchise, making it the DC Extended Universe from the very beginning, and do what Berlanti was doing on TV in movies, and I think it would have been extremely successful. The Batman has launched an international trailer. It's pretty samey to what we've already seen, but there are some new scenes in there, and Screen Rant are all over it. So because my memory's shit and I don't spot everything, I thought we'd read this article together. The Batman International trailer reveals more of the Riddler's plan. The Batman's International trailer shows off new footage not seen previously, including new looks at the Riddler, Paul Dano's master plan, by Christopher Fiducia of Screen Rant. A new international trailer for the Batman provides a new look at the Riddler and his evil plan. After it was revealed Ben Affleck would no longer be directing or acting in a solo Batman movie, Warner Brothers switched gears and recruited Matt Reeves to direct a standalone film focusing on a younger Bruce Wayne, Robert Pattinson. Zoe Kravitz will be playing Catwoman this time around, with Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon and Paul Dano as the Riddler. The first trailer for the Batman was revealed at 2020's DC Fandom using only a few weeks worth of footage. At this point the film is still in post-production but has completely finished filming. With the Batman being Warner Brothers' next big DC adventure, the marketing campaign has started to ramp up. That being said, Dano's Riddler is still shrouded in mystery. The marketing material has shown the character a few times, with the original trailer beginning with the Riddler wrapping a victim's head in duct tape. His motivation seems to be connected to Bruce Wayne's family, but at this point there are more questions than answers. Warner Bros. Japan via Culture Crave recently dropped a new trailer for the Batman. The international trailer reveals a few new shots from the movie not seen previously, one of which shows the Riddler's wall filled with newspaper clippings and photographs. Check out the full trailer below. Well, I've already seen it and I don't want to get copyright strikes, so we're not going to do that. Along with Dano's Riddler, the Batman is also set to introduce new versions of Catwoman and the Penguin Colin Farrell. From what has been seen in the trailers so far, Selina Kyle is going to be more of an ally to Bruce Wayne than an enemy. Farrell is also said only to be in the film for a few minutes, with Oswald Cobblepot being further explored in a solo Penguin TV show. Smart move. Superhero movies often struggle to introduce multiple villains in a single film, but there's no reason to think Reeves can't successfully pull it off. The Riddler will clearly be Batman's main threat, and the trailers are setting up a version of the character that has never been explored before. The footage in this most recent trailer lines up with what has been seen previously. Unlike superhero epics like Avengers Endgame and Zack Snyder's Justice League, Reeves is looking to craft a much more grounded and gritty comic book movie. Hang on, Zack Snyder's Justice League movie is gritty and grounded and immersive at the same time. So what are you talking about? Anyway, more grounded and gritty comic book movie. It's still unclear how Bruce's family ties to the Riddler's actions, but exploring a plot thread like that already makes the Batman seem more grounded than Batman Forever's version of the character. No, anything would be more grounded than that. Come off it. The Riddler might be a recognisable comic book character among even casual DC fans, but the trailers have indicated this could be the darkest version of the supervillain audiences have ever seen. So it's interesting, not a very good article, sorry about that, I thought it'd be a bit more better, much better and descriptive. Never mind, well, we will go into this. So there's not much new stuff in this trailer. I think we see a great shot of Pattinson removing his mask, which is awesome, and a few other things. They try and reveal a little bit more about the Riddler. As I said yesterday, Matt Reeves isn't the type to reveal too much. This is why I don't think Barry from the Eternals is actually the Joker. That would never be allowed to get out, not in Matt Reeves' camp. They've been very secretive, they got away with it. So I don't believe Barry's the Joker, but we'll have to wait and see. It doesn't mean my hopes and theories about Phoenix being the Joker are true, but something's going on with the Joker, that's for sure. But the Riddler is going to be the main focus here. A bit of a Dexter Morgan from the Dexter television show. This is a victim more than a villain who's decided to murder a bunch of bad people and use them as a kind of crossword puzzle to give Batman some clues, but also link him to stuff about his own family heritage and his parents that he never thought about. So, does this mean the Waynes are part of the problem of Gotham? Or are they like Nolan's Batman trilogy, Dark Knight trilogy, where the parents were trying to save Gotham? It'll be interesting to find out, because obviously there's different Batman comics. You know, there's kind of spin-offs, comics and stuff where they try and do Elseworld stuff. And obviously we're in the DCEU Earth 2. So this is still DCEU. This is still part of the DC Extended Universe, but it's Earth 2. As we know, the Flash movie, as we discussed earlier, is going to make the multiversal universe canon, which means the Batman will be canon after the Flash in the DC Extended Universe. Whatever your propaganda or your narrative is, they are the facts, because we've already been told that by Andy Muschietti. So, it looks to me that we could be looking at maybe the Riddler, Edward Nashton, not Edward Nigma. Edward Nashton is another version of the Riddler in the comics, but Edward Nashton could be kind of the half-son or the illegitimate son of the Waynes. He could have been a son that Martha Wayne had in secret. Who knows? You know, anything could be going on here. So he could be an illegitimate child. So it could be that. We had a similar situation in Dexter season 1 when the ice truck killer was revealed in a huge twist that the ice truck killer was actually Dexter Morgan's brother. So if you watch Dexter, you'll remember that. If you haven't watched Dexter, Dexter's a great fucking show and it's come back now. It's called Dexter New Blood. You should just watch it all again. It's fucking brilliant. He really is a modern day real world kind of Batman, if you like. Anyway, we won't talk about Dexter because this is the DC Extended Universe. In fact, there have been some Marvel comics. Marvel Comics have actually published some Dexter Morgan comics as well after the show originally finished. So you should definitely check those comics out. But so this is the kind of version of the Riddler we're getting. He's not a villain. He's an anti-hero. In a way, he's an anti-hero, a darker anti-hero than Batman, but he is an anti-hero. He's trying to expose corruption because of what he's faced in his very life. That's led him to being a murderer, the very opposite of what Bruce Wayne believes in. But I think there's going to be a very interesting dynamic between these two characters. You know, it's classic kind of one of those detective stories, if you like, where the hero is playing, you know, the villain is playing cat and mouse. Basically, the hero and the villain are playing cat and mouse with each other. And I think this is what we're getting here between Bruce Wayne, Batman, and Edward Nashton. And I think that's definitely going on. So I don't think you're a genius if you say that there's something going on between, you know, there's a connection to the Waynes and Edward Nashton. And I think it's going to be, look, I think this is going to be such a cool, different Batman movie. And I know for the Snyder fans amongst you, some of you are very angry about this movie because it kind of replaced Ben Affleck's The Batman. But it doesn't stop it from happening because it's on another Earth. You get it? That's what the multiverse does. But I am excited for the movie. I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be a beautiful, you know, gritty, dark, immersive experience. And I can't wait to see it. And this is the variety I want to see in the DC Extended Universe, by the way. You've got the Batman in March. Then in the summer, you've got Black Adam. Think about that for a minute. You've got a real-world, dark, gritty Batman story. Then you've got the fantastic, you know, Black Adam universe, the Shazam universe, which is the stark contrast of Batman. And I like that. Then you've got the Flash, from the sublime to the ridiculous. And then you're dealing with Atlantis and Arthur Curry and Aquaman in December, unless that moves. So, you know, it's very interesting next year. You go from Batman to Black Adam to the Flash to Aquaman to Batgirl to Blue Beetle. Already you can see what they're trying to build here. Various different heroes from different walks of life and different universes, and I think it's great. So if the DC Extended Universe and Walter Hamada are able to combine a multiversal DCEU franchise and have characters crossing over, but in the films and the TV shows being able to also do their own things, I think the DCEU is going to go upwards very, very quickly. I want the DCEU to be successful under Hamada, but I also think that they must restore the Snyderverse because there's an audience there and there's money to be made. And I personally love it, and I want to see Justice League 2, Justice League 3, the Batfleck movie, and I want the Air Cut to be released as well. I'm hoping the multiverse strategy that Hamada's constructing is successful, and also when Zaslav and Discovery come in, they can release and restore the Snyderverse. This has been the DCEU Daily. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this perfection. And I'll see you again tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily. Until then, au revoir, goodbye, auf Wiedersehen.